it's not about chasing the next big shiny thing. It's about doing things in a way that brings about growth in our audiences and supports our business priorities. And with that in mind, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce Nicholas Sagau Tony Ngimat. He is the Chief Operating Officer at the Rev Media Group. And Rev is the digital arm of Media Prima Berhad, which is the biggest media conglomerate in Malaysia. So Nicholas is also the president of the Malaysia Digital Association, which represents 66 digital companies and aims to support all digital businesses and professions to thrive. So Nicholas, over to you. Really looking forward to your session today.
Hi, thanks. Thank you. Good. I guess it's good afternoon to everyone. Let me just share my screen. All good. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
All right. Let's start. Okay, good. Again, thank you for having me. So today, thank you. Before I start, I want to thank you, WAN-IFRA, for inviting me to, speak at this conference and event. I hope all of you will learn something. As I also was doing the slides, I was actually learning something new. So I think that's a good spirit to have, to always learn. So I'm gonna go on a few parts of my slides today, talking about how the newsroom will be using data, tools and metrics in making sure that it's covered across 360. I'll cover first on the collaboration newsroom. I'll talk about some of the tools that we use, right, and the metrics that we use to measure. And then quite a lengthy of my slides talked about audience data and why is it important for newsroom to look into. A bit about Rev Media Group. We're the Malaysian leading digital publisher. We have about 36 brands. They are news portals, ranging from hard news content to lifestyle, tech stories, sports, and all that. So we actually cover quite a bit of the Malaysian landscape in terms of distribution. We reach out to almost 15.8 million audience in Malaysia. For context, there are about 23 million audience in total according to Comscore in Malaysia. So we reach to almost 80% of the digital population right now. We're very honored and proud with this slide, because it's not every time you can actually say that you are number one in your own country above Facebook and Google. But yes, in Malaysia, or in terms of mobile reach, we're actually number one. The next one to us is one of our competitor, Astro, and then you get Facebook and Google as the number two, number three, and number four. So this is all Comscore. It's all audited number. So so it's not a number that we put on our own. If you can see in the list here, it's quite interesting list. You can see some of the publisher as well, somewhere within the top 10, which is also means good, means like people are consuming content in our country, and news content is probably like one of the most reach out for popular in the market. This is some of our brands, just to give you a bit of a glimpse of all the brands that we have. We are operating just under 300 people to manage and operate all these brands of news. So we also have some Southeast Asia brand like IGN Southeast Asia and Mashable Southeast Asia. It's under us. We manage it from Kuala Lumpur, but we also have writers across the Southeast Asia country that we cover, like Philippines, Indonesia, and also Singapore. The main core business of Rev Media Group is basically looking at how we use our platform to basically offer marketing solution to our client. This is quite important to set a context, because you'll see in my slide towards the end, a lot of my my thoughts are actually really around data, right? And I give a good background. We started our data, big data, behind our product, mainly because of marketing solution. But today we actually use this, these stacks that we built over the years for our newsroom as well. So I think that's why I wanted to show this slide, just to say where this business of, solution into really looking at our audience started from, so you give you a bit more idea how far we went with the solution. So with that solution, we actually offer all these particular solution to our client. We do articles, branded articles, we do video. We work very closely with YouTube and Facebook in this market in Malaysia. We also have like social influencer business that we run, and pretty much quite close to the topic today is the display and data solution. We do a lot of deals with agencies here on audience persona retargeting, CPC, the whole lot of what the jargons with all the agencies be using. We're pretty much into the business now, because for us to be able to sustain obviously the operation of the business, we need to make sure the revenues are strong. So hence that's where that's gonna come from. So yeah. Okay, let's go into the detail of the collaboration, detail of my content. So the first one I'll talk about is basically the how crucial collaboration between the newsroom. I've made an overview of this. I actually have another slide. This is a very detailed one, but I thought it'd be quite nice to just narrate through one single slide to just give you an overview. I think traditionally media companies, publishers, we usually use the metrics of page view and MAU for quite a long time in measuring in the performance of our products and also our editorial team. But for us, a lot of our focus today is actually on engagement, right? Engagement to our audience. Why that's important is because we want to be able to get a lot more information about our audience as they read our content in our sites, right? So for that to happen, we need to make sure that there is strong engagement. They read more. They cross from portals to portals. Whether it's from one of our sports portal, they go to like a tech portal. We can actually create a persona behind the particular person. That's why engagement is very important for us. Not so much of page view and MAU. Of course, it's still a core metrics, but we really focus on our engagement of metrics that we have. So how that works is basically to make that possible. There are 4 teams that look after each one of their part, but really going into making the engagement as a focus of their KPI. So for example, editorial team obviously focus on a lot of content quality, content richness. That's 2 part, looking at how long the articles are, how many paragraphs they are, how many pictures they are that we can actually put in to make the content a lot more interactive and easy to for people to stay on to watch, right? We even have video recommendation based on articles, in between articles, right, to make sure that the audience are either reading a lot more, browsing a lot more on our site, or actually we bring them jumping into another video portals that we have. And also one of the things that we make sure the newsroom editorial teams are focused on is really figuring out content follow-up based on topics that is trending today, right? So for example, there is in KL today, it's been raining quite a bit, and 2 days ago there was a flood in one of the highway. So a lot of things that we focus on to figure out, not only reporting the story but also report like live stories around what happened, a certain issue, why the flood happens, whether it's the fault of the council or the government or whatever it is. We actually try to make sure that using data and predicting what audience are looking for through our social listening tools, we can actually know what's to write for. Right? Maybe there's 3 topics that is popular trending in the market. We actually try to figure out which is the one that we want to carry on forward. So a lot of the stuff that we focus on, not just the quantity of the story, but really focus on quality and really trying to predict what's the next trend in the next coming up few hours for us to basically figure out the stories on that. Then it leads to marketing. I think in a traditional publishing house, marketing usually doesn't sit within the the newsroom operation, right? In a traditional way, but a lot of newsroom has actually moved into having like a marketing team just being part of the ecosystem, right? A lot of the stories, a lot of the things that we look up for today is because a lot of our audience also comes from search engine, right? Like Google, as well as in other search tools as available in the market. We really focus to make sure that the marketing teams are sitting together with the newsroom, or also always in the know about what's trending out in the market, right? So for example, when I give you the example of the flood just now, straight away, our marketing team were really figuring out how do we bid for the SEM on the keyword flood, right? To make sure when user type floods, our feature story will be appearing first in a search engine, right? So these are just an example of how we integrate the marketing team within that. They can also give feedback on what's the best SEO or the keywords that the editorial team can have in articles in the next follow-up, because just following the trends of what people are tracking out in the search engine, because search engine is quite a vast market where people, platform where people are searching for stories, right? So that's the marketing bit. And if you look at product, the product team actually pulls all the strategies together to make sure that they keep an eye on what the metrics are and what we're supposed to push on a particular hour or day. One of the big roles for the product team within the newsroom is to look at how we balance between editorial and business, right? At the same time, we want to make sure that sites are very easy to navigate through, but at the same time also we want to make sure that there are enough opportunity for advertisers to put their ads in or branded content in as well. So the product team works very closely with the sales team, the strategy team, the creative marketing team for the client to actually make sure there's a balance between that and also editorial. And finally, the big team in the background of our newsroom today are really our engineers and our data science guys, right? Again, traditionally, they were not as important. I think in the past, engineers are supposed to just build your website and make sure it's up all the time. But today, engineering teams are very important in the whole ecosystem, mainly because they are the team to make sure that your sites are really feature-proof, right? There's a lot more technology stacks available out there in the market. There's a lot more new way of distributing content available out there, right? So the engineers are constantly figuring out the best way to distribute our content across the platform, because we believe in newsrooms are best at producing content, where we want to be able to work as much as possible to distribute those content to as many platforms as possible, and of course tracking them, right, and making sure the metrics comes back to the newsroom as well, so to make sure that there's worth in the hard work that's being labored on the content. And finally, on the data side, there's this bit on data management as well, which I've talked a little bit towards the end, and also making sure that we have enough dashboard, easy to follow dashboard of our data for the newsroom to follow. A lot of these things that we've been doing are set with this particular foundation we bumped into a couple of years ago. It's by Deloitte, right? I think I'll put the source there. You can go and look for it. I thought it was very good, white paper that they've released, talking about how data is being used in news organization, right? Talking about it's a culture, it's a way of working, and really setting the foundation first to make sure that the newsroom, both editorial or the product team, even the marketing team, really culturally use a reference on data before they start the day or during the day itself, right? And if you can create a culture, and the newsroom should be able to think a lot more in a more analytics way to figure out the next trend, the next topic they want to be able to cover, or they want to put focus on that, right? So I think I encourage you to look for the paper. It's quite interesting. I've just got a snippet. I thought this slide was very interesting to share. The foundation you should build if you want to be able to use data as in the background of your newsroom. covering a bit about tools that we use, right? Today we actually use quite a bit of tools in the newsroom to really look at how we either monitor our performance of our site, but also look at how we distribute content in a little bit more efficient, right? So if you look at on top, your usual thing like portals, we use an A/B testing platform called Insiders. We also use push notification using a tool called Insiders. I'm pretty sure some of you might have used it already, but I thought it's one of the good tools we've invested our time on to really look at how is the best way to push the headline when they are already out in the market there, right? And we use Chartbits, really real-time dashboarding on what's trending on the site. GAs, our standard tools that everyone use, I suppose, in today. And the social media side, we use quite a bit of social listening, in predicting the next tools, the next stories of the day, where crowds, what are the trendings on Twitter, and figuring out how do we write on the stories, on how do we expand on the stories that are actually building up on that. So we use social listening. The tools that we use today is called Meltwater. We like the tools, and it is very easy for the team to to set up. It doesn't need a lot of experience on setting up. So we like it because the usage is a bit more once the teams are very used to the platform. On the app side, we use a lot of app any data. We do competitive analysis, looking at where our competitors are, how long they're on computer side, so we can actually see where we want to improve ourselves. In really pulling a lot more rich content about our audience, because apps are usually picking up a lot more signals rather than on the browser, on the site itself. So it's something that we focus on. On the video side, the usual Facebook and YouTube, like as I said. But one thing we've really focused on video is really looking at the best tools to clip or to edit our stories in a fastest way possible. And then especially to our multi-platform, right? So you edit a couple of video, you edit a shorter one for TikTok, and then you sort of like do a bit of longer one for YouTube, and then a square one for Facebook, for example, right? So in the past, we used to have like multiple editing softwares to do it. We have like a couple of people just doing the similar thing and clipping it into a different platform. But today we use a tool called Grabio that allows us to actually do a lot of things on the cloud, and even it really helped during the pandemic, where a lot of our guys who are actually on the field can send the content to their colleague at home, editing it in their balcony, for example, right, to be able to send to multiple platforms on the side. And then finally, one of the things that we focus a lot of our time is actually content recommendation across our network, because we have 36 brands, right? It's an opportunity for us to cross the audience within our networks while they are online. So we actually use it to offer similar content you're reading to another website that we own. For example, in sports, for example, in one of our sites we have a sports section, but we actually have a sports dedicated site across called Vocat, for example. We can actually make a recommendation based on the stories that they are reading, but we are actually developing it in making it a bit more complex now, where the data teams are doing a bit of research, figuring out recommendation based on type of stories that you read, right? So for example, you read a very happy story about someone's success, for example, right? We can actually recommend you another story quite similar to that particular feel and persona in another website as well. So these are some of the tools that we use quite extensively in the newsroom to give us a bit more overview of what are the field of to build a lot more engagement to our site. Again, I will skip this, but again, I recommend you guys to download the paper. But this is really to talk about the user case of data in the newsroom. It really gives you a good glimpse of what are the things that you can actually do with data in the backend. Because with the data, we will be able to able to build a 360 customer view of our audience, right? Like I said, when I said the slides, a lot of things that we were implementing was pretty much more to our advertisers, right? But slowly we realized actually this data is really really pulling up that we can actually use for the newsroom, where we can actually obtain a lot more 360 audience data around a particular person on our platform, right? And then we can make this recommendation a little bit more confident when we were pushing a lot of content out there. I'll give you an example. Today, we are able to sort of like make a recommendation of like a particular person based on data that we can hear, we can see them on our sites. We can actually tell you like how long they've been on our site, the recency on the site. We can actually tell you like how many times that they click on the entertainment news, for example. Right, with all this data in the background, we can actually make up a persona to make a recommendation to the newsroom, what type of content that we can actually write, or write the next one, next story follow-up. For example, depending as well, like this particular person likes to log in at a particular time of the day, right? We can actually figure out a strategy on a lot more, for example, lifestyle story, 4 o'clock, for example, right? When people are winding down, they are actually reading a lot more this kind of content during 4 o'clock. So the next day, we actually strategize some content around that as well on a particular time of the day, for example. So this is an example of why these data points are important for us. So we can track them by not just by the site, by individual. So we can actually put them in buckets of persona. With that, I think it's a nice segue to talk about audience data, right? So I think I've talked about when I was speaking about a lot about audience, how we use data on our platform. Now we talked about how are we collecting the data. This is quite an interesting topic that a lot of publishers are left out with, right? Because if you talk to advertisers, clients in the market who are spending money on AdX in the market, this is something that is being really talked about, right? But to publisher, I think it's really, really important to spend a bit of time and of course resources to figuring out where do we want to be in when this cookie is taken out by Google, supposedly by end of next year, right? What does it mean for everyone, right? For consumer, they will be able to to have a lot more control over data, right? But for publisher like us, it creates a little bit more opportunity for us to create our own data, first-party data, which is what we've been implementing in Brave Media Group, right? Because that gives us a little bit more control, or even a narrative, or even very specific, specific data point that we want about our audience for our, for monetization, or also for our newsroom. This is our strategies that we put together. It's actually an internal slide, but I thought since all of us are publisher, and I'm not sure how much some of you have deep dive into into this kind of into cookieless topic, but this is what we want to be able to. We are actually implementing right now. We're doing a single sign-on ID across the 36 products that we have. But what we've been doing is to make sure that the technology in the background doesn't disrupt the audience flow throughout the site, right? We're not enforcing the single sign-on, that you need to sign in to read news, but it's still something that we want to encourage our audience to sign in, and I'll give you some example of what we are giving to the audience when they sign in. But across in the back end of our 36 product, the single sign-on ID is actually stitched together, right? So if I go to I've logged in site A, for example, right? If I go to site C, which is our network as well, you don't even need to log in over that site. We can actually track you through the authentication ID to make sure that we still remember you, Nicholas, as you travel, and actually build a persona, and so we can make better recommendation on content that you should read on our networks, right? So some stuff that we are actually doing is basically doing, contacts, our cohorts, set of similar audience and set of similar user. Like I said just now, in this segmentation, this allows us to do a bit more of the behavior prediction around in the back end. So these are some example that we're putting together. To just get the audience to log in. We're planning to give them, some sort of gamification. Working with some of our clients. So, for example, you read 3 articles, you get a voucher for free. For example, you can do bookmark and so forth. So this is more of to encourage the audience to sign in, so we can actually make a lot more better recommendation to them. As you can see. We're looking into that, and basically this is a benefit to our users when they want to sign into our sites. To publisher, of course, to us, it gives us a lot more. Like I said, I repeated a lot more of audits, better tracking, better persona of our audience, and then of course to our clients, right? I think this is a lot of clients and marketers are looking for this. They are looking for a publisher or a website that is not relying 100% on the cookie from Google. They can actually come to us and actually create, persona, create campaigns around the targeting, around things that they want to target, right? And we started to get a lot of data partnership, inquiry since we have launched this about a year ago. That helps us to make our data richer as well, right? For example, so as a publisher, one of the points that we don't have enough is commerce, right? Because we don't have a strong e-commerce site, so we actually partner with another commerce site to basically make a richer, audience persona that we don't have. Yes, my last slide to recap this. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Corinne is coming to help me out now. So just to recap, if you don't remember everything that I shared with you, the 4 things that I would like to continue to remind is about collaboration in newsroom, between the editorial team, product, marketing, and also the engineering and data team. I think that is super key. If the teams are not well oiled together and working together, it's quite hard to put the pieces together. Hence, my recommendation is a strong product team is highly recommended. I recommend that to stitch everyone together, because that's what we've been doing. Another thing is to look at tools, right? I know they can be quite pricey, but you gotta be able to invest in some of these to make sure that you can actually have incremental metrics, right, to your big goals, and making sure that whatever you're doing with your content on your sites in the newsroom actually brings benefit to the sites and obviously help you to grow. And the next one, like I did spend quite a lot of time and talking about data, audience data, and understanding the segmentation and create a lot more direct persona. And hopefully that builds into like sort of a very nice revenue chain. But of course, the challenge in newsroom, I'm pretty sure a lot of us are having the same, is to balance between editorial and business, which we continue to try to make better. As head of product as well in the group, I get involved in a lot of conversation with our clients as well, right? So it gives me a lot more insight of what the spirits from the client, why they're trying to do a takeover on the website, for example, right? So it's a lot more closer engagement with the client and trying to figure out, getting the input to our newsroom, and then finally. And yes, that's pretty much my slide. Yes.
Thanks so much, Nicholas. We do have a couple of questions, and we have a maximum of 4 minutes. So let's see if we can get through them quite quickly. So one of the questions is, how is the decision architecture for product teams? Are they part of newsroom and report to the editor or to the marketing manager? And I guess if we think about that in perhaps a slightly wider context, because there'll be newsroom managers from all sorts of sizes of media outlets here, how do people go about making those decision architecture decisions, and who do they need to talk to within and outside the business to set up that sort of structure?
We tried a few formats before where the product teams are actually reporting to the head of editor, right? It didn't really work, because at the end of the day, you will get an issue where there's a bit more bias in subsequent decision, right? You need the product team to be almost independent of editorials, right? Then they can actually think for you from all angles of the business. whether it's from audience behavior, whether it's for benefit of the business, right? So you need to make sure that the product team are independent, and in this case, the product team actually reports to me, the COO, and I work very closely with the head of editorial as well, and making that sense. But it's really important. The reason why we can successfully work closely with editorial is really because we have data analytics to tell them otherwise, right? Because newsrooms are, this is very creative, right? But when you think about creative and versus what the audience really want, if you bring data together, you can actually make a really good case where everyone is, understand, right? At the end of the day, it's the consumer, right? Your readers. If you don't understand what they need and what they're really doing on your side, then defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely, I think, summarizes the importance of this, is thinking about first-party data. It's so important. The first time I heard the phrase audience-driven storytelling and the need to do that was maybe 10 years ago, and we're still talking about it. So I'll just wrap this up. We only have a minute or so, but what have you done to get the mindset shift at your business to make it audience-focused?
The mindset is really looking at what the audience want, right? What do they really need from our brands, right? I think it's really really intentionally trying to know what the audience are and what they like, right? So if that is the focus, that if you know that, right, then it's easier for the newsroom to accept that, hey, it's not all the time what we think the news is, it's what audience are and what the ecosystem wants to read about.
100%. Okay, well, we do need to wrap up. So friends, we've been listening to Nicholas Sagau Tony Ngimat, the Chief Operating Officer at Rev Media Group. So if you could click the back button and head back to the main session, and we'll see you in the next session very shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.